Question 5, Don says, I have analyzed the hawk that I saw immediately after returning from the house in Atlanta as a message, most probably from my higher self, indicating that the plan of moving was not the best, was not too appropriate, since without the hawk, everything would have continued as planned with no added catalyst. This single catalyst of a remarkable nature then, logically from my point of view, could only mean that there was a message as to the inappropriateness of the plan for some reason yet to be discovered. Would Ra comment on that? Now, before I get into Ra's commentary, because they are going to say something here, let me just emphasize what happened to my camera. Did I just destroy it? I think I just did. There we go. I think that's better. Or that. Okay, we're back. So let me just comment that Don is in essence asking Ra for validation here, right? He's not saying validate me, but please comment on this. And he's set in his idea that the hawk meant that, but he wants it to be validated. Yes, he's very specific about what's happening. He says, I have analyzed the hawk, which is a message probably from my higher self, indicating that the plan to moving was not the best. And he thinks this because if it wasn't for the hawk, everything would have continued as planned with no added catalyst. So his plans were interfered by the hawk somehow, and we can simply see Don's reaction here as being too paranoid, I would say, which I don't blame him, and of course I'm not making any jest out of that, but just pointing it out. We can get into that. We all can get into that. We're all human. But I really want to emphasize it because we can, and if anything, there is a lesson here for us. And he realizes that this single catalyst of a remarkable nature can only logically be a message of the inappropriateness of the plant for some reason yet to be discovered. So he doesn't know, you see, but he's thinking maybe maybe even thinking this is the thing. I mean, we get too much in our heads. Ra had mentioned that the house needed some ritual cleansing, which they were supposed to do. I don't think they did, because they didn't move into the house, but they were going to. Maybe that got into Don's head and said, that's the reason why the hawk means, or says, please don't move into this house. This house is tainted. But I don't know about you, but the way I interpreted that necessity for cleansing the house is that it was a minor thing. Like every house obviously is going to have some energy that is not going to be compatible with you. So if you want to clean it, then clean it. It's just like when we move into the house, we tend to organize things the way we want. That's it. There's no hell in there. Sure, some houses may require a lot more cleaning and painting and who knows what else, reshaping, remodeling, whatever it is. We do that. It's fine. As long as we bring our harmony to it, that's it. That's all that matters. So, yeah, I don't think it was an important thing, but Don seemed to consider that, or think that way, at any rate. So he's saying all of this, and Ra's going to comment on it. They say, we tread as close as possible to the law of Confucian in suggesting that not all winged creatures have an archetypical meaning. We might suggest that the noticing of shared subjectively notable phenomena is common when, in another incarnational experience, work significant to the service of increased polarity has been shared. So right from the get-go, they're saying, we're going to talk about this, but we're very close to suggesting something to you. You see, to infringing upon free will. That's the law of confusion. Free will. The law of free will. And they're suggesting, that's where they're getting close by saying, not all winged creatures are of an archetypical meaning. So when you look at bird, then don't try to associate it with archetypal information or meaning. That seems logical to me. In fact, I consider everything in the tarot to be symbolic and not really representative of nature itself. I don't know, maybe have a big disconnect with all of this symbology, but that seems logical to me. And then they say, this is interesting, right? They say that share subjectively notable phenomena. My God, share subjectively notable phenomena. So they're talking about the hawk here, in this case, and the interpretation, subjective interpretation, is common when in another incarnation experience, so in another life, significant work for service has been shared. So I don't know if this is between the three of them, right? Because it says shared subjectively notable phenomena is common when in other lives then this service has been also shared. I think they're talking about Don, Carla, and Jim as a group, that, right? Because that's shared subjectively notable phenomena. That is common when in the past, in other incarnational lives, they have had significant service or significant work in service to others in this case, and has increased polarity. But that's not all. They finish saying, this subjectively interesting shared phenomena then act as a means of communication, the nature of which cannot be discussed by those outside of the shared incarnational experience without the interference with the free will of each entity involved in the complex of subjectively meaningful events. Okay, so yeah, the intricate way in which Ra is saying all of this is simply... I'm going to play with my video again. It just looks terrible. Is that better? Let's leave it at that. Yeah, so they're definitely talking about the appearance of the hawk, in essence, is something that they should discuss. You see? And not for Ra to discuss. They say, these subjectively interesting shared phenomena then act as a means of communication. Okay, so it's a way of informing all of them. The nature of which, that's what Dawn is saying, something yet to be revealed. Why? I can't move into that house. Well, the nature of that cannot be discussed by those outside of the shared incarnational experience without interference with the free will of each entity involved. So, in essence, they're saying those messages and those synchronicities, us, Ra, who are not sharing the incarnational experience with you, cannot discuss it without infringing on free will, on the free will of those involved, which is Don, Carla, and Jim. Yeah, if you reread this paragraph again, you'll find out that that's what they're saying. These synchronicities cannot be interpreted, interpreted by us who are not there. Only you can interpret it, and you should talk about it. It's a great suggestion, of course, for Dawn to bring this. And now that we know what Carla and Jim thought, in their commentary they say that they thought it was a sign of, great, let's do it. They were positive about it. Whereas Don was influenced by a negative thought, thinking that it wasn't appropriate for them to move there. And how sad would it sound in the story of all of them if that was the house that they were supposed to continue the raw contact in, and they didn't. I remember Carla saying that they took from there on, at some point maybe after Don's death, the hawk as a sign for Ra. So every time they saw a hawk, they thought of Ra. And they actually had I forgot what's the name of a group of hawks, but they had hawks nesting in their house in Louisville, Kentucky, in the 90s, at least when they wrote the book 5. So again, Ra is refraining from making any commentary, and they're just suggesting in a very subtle way that they discuss it. They're not saying you should discuss it, but they're saying that these are things that happen to people who have had incarnational experiences in the past with service. This is something that Ra also mentioned when they talk about them being wanderers, and I think 2 were from 6th density, 1 from 5th density. So they had a relationship already, previous lives together. And so, this is what happens when you are together with people who have share your experience in the past, especially in the service.